Tonight, let your eyes grow heavy and your breathing slow. We're going to a quiet town where a girl named Belle loves books and kind ideas. Her father makes little machines. A path through the woods leads to a hidden castle, warm with candles and secret smiles. Inside lives a beast with a tired heart and a rose that keeps time. There is no rush here, no loud moments, only soft voices, crackling fires, friendly teacups, and the slow bloom of trust. Settle in, listen close, and follow Belle's gentle story until sleep arrives like snow on a still night. Chapter 1. A quiet morning in the village. The morning begins soft and slow. Shutters open. A baker lifts a tray of warm bread. Steam curls like small clouds. Far away, a bell chimes once, then rests. A cart rolls over stones. A river slips past the edge of town, bright as a ribbon under the sun. Belle steps outside with a book held close. Her hair is tied back. Her eyes are awake. She breathes the good, clean air and smiles at the sound of birds on the roof. Today will be simple, she thinks. A walk, a visit to the bookshop, a kind word or two, and time to read. Good mornings drift across the square. Morning, Belle. Morning, monsieur. Your roses look happy today. They like the gentle light, he says, and he laughs softly as if the flowers can hear. Belle looks at the town and sees all its small rhythms. The broom sweeping a doorway, the milk jug set carefully on a step, the cat stretched in a window, paws lifted to the sun. People nod, people talk. Children chase each other, shoes tapping the stones. It is a simple place, but not empty. It is full of little lives well lived. She passes the fountain and sits for a minute. Her book opens with a dry whisper. A page turns. She reads a paragraph, then another. In the story, a quiet hero walks toward a distant mountain. The hero is alone, but not lonely. The road is long, but the heart is steady. Belle loves that. She loves the calm courage that grows from listening, from watching, from being kind. Belle, calls a voice, warm and friendly. The bookseller stands in his doorway, a cloth tucked in his pocket. I wondered if I would see you this morning. You always do, Belle says, closing her book with care. It wouldn't be a morning without a visit. He steps aside and lets her in. The shop smells like dust and wood and paper. Sunlight falls through the front window and makes a golden square on the floor. Books line the walls from floor to ceiling, a soft forest of stories, each waiting to be opened, each ready to teach, to comfort, to hold a hand. Anything new, she asks. Always. He reaches to a high shelf and pulls down a small volume with a faded blue cover. A travel tale. The author writes like a friend speaking by the fire. The kind of words that make your shoulders relax. Belle smiles. That's my favorite kind. She opens the book. The lines are gentle, the places are far, but the heart feels close. She reads a page, then looks up. I'll take it, she says. You always choose the books that want to be chosen, he answers. It's a talent. She laughs and tucks the book into her bag. Before she leaves, she places another book on the counter to return. I love this one, she says. The part with the lighthouse at night felt like a lantern in my chest. I'll remember that, he says. I'll suggest it to someone who needs light. Belle steps back into the square. A breeze moves through the trees. Somewhere, a door closes softly. She thinks of the day ahead, reading, a visit to her father's workshop. Maybe she will help him polish the small brass pieces he loves. Maybe she will make tea while he tests a gear. She feels a warm happiness at the thought. Her father's work is loud sometimes, but his heart is quiet and good. He has a gentle laugh. He listens when she speaks. He is proud of her mind. The path from the square to the workshop is short. She passes gardens full of herbs and beans. She passes the mill with its slow wooden wheel turning the river into motion and hum. She passes a flock of geese who look important and busy and make soft fussing sounds as they go. At the top of a small rise, Belle pauses. Beyond the town, the woods wait. The trees are dark and tall. Their shadows pool like cool water. A narrow road slips between them and bends out of sight. Belle has never minded the sight of the woods. They are not unkind. They are simply deep. The trees keep their own counsel, and that's all right. She reaches the workshop, and the door is open. A coil of smoke lifts into the air. It smells like oil and pine shavings. As she steps inside, she hears a soft ticking, then a clink, then her father's voice humming a tune from long ago. "Good morning, Papa," she calls. From behind a long table of tools, Maurice looks up and smiles. "Good morning, my Belle." She steps into the room that is both messy and neat. Messy in the way all making is messy. Screws in a dish, a sketch pinned to a wall, a wooden box with labels in her father's careful hand. Neat in the way a mind can be neat. Each thing in its place, each idea stored where he can find it again. "How does it feel today?" she asks, pointing to his current invention. It is a small machine with a crank and a polished lever and a little hammered bell. "Promising," he says. "But the gear here is stubborn. It wants to catch." Belle takes the tool he offers. She looks close. She turns the gear exactly a single tooth. She blows a bit of dust away. The gear sits more truly. She tries the crank. The machine turns. The bell rings once, bright and clear. "There it is," Maurice says, relieved and pleased. He hugs her with his eyes. "I always say it. You see how things fit." Belle lifts one shoulder. "We both do. We just see different parts first." They work together a while. It is easy and warm. Belle wipes the table, then sets cups for tea. Maurice tightens a bolt, then loosens it by a hair, then nods. A clock in the corner keeps a calm beat. If someone walked by and listened, they might think the room has a heart. Later, Belle steps outside again and looks at the town. The morning is now near noon. She thinks of reading, of making soup, of bringing a bowl to the elderly neighbor who always forgets to eat until the sun is low. She thinks of the book in her bag and how it will feel to open it later on her bed, where the afternoon light makes a square on the quilt. The day is smooth. The day is kind. And somewhere far from the square, deep in the woods, something else waits. But not yet. Not in this moment. For now, it is just a quiet morning. And Belle, with her book and her steady steps, walks home through light that looks like warm honey poured on stone. She does not hurry. There is no need. The story knows the way. Breathe in. Breathe out. Turn the page. Chapter 2. Belle's Library Heart. Belle's room is small and bright. The window is wide. A bird sometimes lands on the sill and looks in. The bed is neatly made with a quilt stitched by her mother's hands a long time ago. On a shelf near the bed, there are 3 small seashells and a smooth stone that looks like an egg. Next to them are stacks of books, some tall, some small, each with a story she has already met or soon will. She sets the new blue book on the table and smooths the cover with her palm. Her fingertips feel the thread of the spine. She likes that. She likes things that have been made with care. She likes to feel the maker's time inside the object, quiet but present, like a secret handshake. She lights a candle even though the day is bright. Candlelight makes the room feel slow and safe. She pours tea that smells like mint and summer. Then she opens the book and begins. The writer's voice is clear and kind. They describe a long road turned silver by morning. They describe a small house with a round window and a kettle that sings. They describe meeting people who speak softly and listen first. Belle reads and feels her chest grow lighter, as if the words are a feather brushing the inside of her heart. She pauses between pages and looks out at the street. A woman carries a basket of apples, red as buttons. A boy helps his grandmother cross the lane. A dog settles under a bench and closes its eyes. Everything moves at an easy pace. Belle thinks, this is the best way to learn. Slowly, again and again, with care. She returns to her book and then smiles at a sentence that is simple and true. She copies it into a small notebook she keeps for lines that matter. The notebook is full of such lines, not grand speeches, not big claims, just small, strong thoughts that hold up like bridges. When she is done, she closes the book and rests her hand on it. She hears her father in the workshop humming. She hears a cart pass on the street, wheels bumping the stones. She sees a child in a doorway playing with a wooden horse. She feels warm. She feels safe. She feels ready to carry some of that safety to others. Belle gathers 3 books she has finished and ties them with a string. She slips on her shoes and goes out to deliver them. The first is for a neighbor who is learning to read. Belle knocks softly and is welcomed inside by eyes that are shy but eager. She sits at the table. She points to the first word on the page. The neighbor repeats it carefully, as if tasting a new food. Good, Belle says, smiling. Again, slow and sure. They read together until the neighbor's voice grows calm and steady. When they finish a page, Belle claps softly, and they both laugh. Reading is work, yes, but also reading is a small party, a celebration of seeing, of understanding, of joining the world more fully. At the next house, Belle returns a cookbook to a woman who's been trying new recipes. The woman shows Belle a loaf that smells like cinnamon and fruit. Belle takes a slice and the taste is sweet and warm. They talk about butter and oven times and how a kitchen can be a room that hugs you. At the last stop, Belle gives a little adventure book to a boy who loves maps. They spread a map on the floor and trace a river with their fingers. Belle tells him that rivers are stories too. They begin somewhere, they travel, they turn, they meet other rivers, and they keep going until the sea says, "Welcome home." On the way back, Belle walks by the schoolhouse. A notice on the wall has words that are long and formal. 2 older men stand there frowning at it. "Do you know what this says?" one asks her, embarrassed. Belle reads the notice out loud, slowly and clearly. She explains the meaning in simple words. The men relax. They thank her. "You have a good voice for this," one says. "You make hard words soft." Belle blushes and nods. "Thank you," she says. Hard words can be soft if someone carries them with care. She returns home and writes for a while. She writes about the book she read and how it felt. She writes about the way the cinnamon bread made her think of winter mornings and open windows. She writes about the map on the floor and how her finger, moving along a line of blue ink, felt like a tiny boat. Later at the workshop, she helps her father sort the small brass badges he makes for farmers' carts. Each badge has a number, and each number has a home. She lines them up on a cloth, and the order soothes her. Maurice watches from his stool, his eyes kind. "You have the soul of a librarian," he says. "I have the soul of a person who likes calm," Belle answers, smiling. At dusk, they step outside together. The sky is the color of peaches and smoke. A bird flies low, then high. The river darkens to a stripe of ink. Belle thinks of the stories she has read, and the stories she will read, and the stories she will live. She thinks of her father and his brave hands. She thinks of the quiet power of choosing kindness again and again, the way a clock chooses to keep time. Inside, she lights one more candle, even though night has not fully come. One candle changes a room, she thinks. One book changes a mind. One kind act changes a day. That is enough. She picks up the blue book again. The hero has reached the mountain. The path is still steep, but people join the hero along the way. They share food. They share a story. They share silence. It is not a loud victory. It is a gentle one, like frost melting on the first warm morning. Belle closes the book with a soft sigh of happiness. She stacks it neatly with the others. She smooths the quilt and sits for a long, easy minute, listening to the tick of the house, the whisper of the street, the breath of the night coming in. Her eyes grow heavy, but she stays awake. There is still something she wants to do before sleep. She takes a piece of paper and writes a small list. Return the borrowed cup to Madame Fournier. Bring soup to Monsieur Aveline. Ask Papa if the small gear can be mended with heat. Visit the bookshop tomorrow. Look at the woods in the morning light. Not go in. Just look. She sets the list by the candle. The flame sways as if nodding. She smiles. Outside, the town quiets. Upstairs, a cat settles in a warm corner. In the workshop, Maurice covers the machine with a cloth and turns off the lamp. The last sound is a key turning in a lock, loyal and sure. Another day's coming. Another page. Belle breathes in, then out. She does not know what waits beyond the trees. She does not need to know. Stories open when it is time. Sleep will come soon, but not yet. There is still Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Maurice the Inventor. A father's warm light. The sun wakes gently and rests on the workshop window. Maurice is already awake. He moves about the room with care, setting tools in order, checking the pressure in a small brass drum, testing the movement of a spring. He is not chasing glory. He is making something useful. He is making a life. Belle comes in with 2 mugs of tea. For the master inventor, she says, placing one by his elbow. For my best helper, he answers, tapping his mug to hers. They sip. The steam carries mint and comfort. On the wall, sketches of inventions hang in a neat row. A safer kettle lid, a stronger wheel spoke, a little lift to help an older neighbor reach a high shelf. None of it is grand. All of it is kind. Maurice shows her his newest plan. If I can get this to work, he says, pointing with a pencil, it will cut the grain in half the time and save a farmer's back. Belle studies the drawing. I like how the handle is set low, she says. It looks like a handshake with the ground. Maurice smiles. That's exactly it. They work side by side. Belle holds a rod while Maurice fastens a pin. They test the balance. They tighten, then loosen, then tighten again, finding the right middle. Maurice's hands are steady. Belle's eyes are sharp. They speak little because they do not need to. Making is a quiet language. Their care says everything. When the first test is ready, Maurice carries the piece to the yard behind the workshop. The grass is damp. The air smells clean. He sets the device on a small patch of straw. Belle stands by with a bucket of water just in case. Maurice looks at her and nods. She nods back. He turns the crank. The device moves, a simple rhythm, a simple success. It is not perfect, but it is strong. Maurice's face glows. Good, he says, breathless with relief. Good. Belle laughs. Better than good. They bring the device inside to adjust one more part. Belle polishes a ring of metal until it reflects the window. Maurice files a rough edge until it is as smooth as a spoon. He sets the file down and looks around the room as if to say thank you to every object that helped. Tomorrow, he says, I'll take it to the fair. Belle's eyebrows lift. Already? It's ready enough to show, he says. And if it works as I think, we can sell 2 or 3 to start. That would be a help. It would, Belle agrees. The fair is a few hours' ride away, along the road that draws a pale line toward the woods. The thought of the woods makes her throat feel tight for no reason she can name. But she trusts the road. She trusts her father's careful way. They make a list. Belle writes the words in her neat hand while Maurice speaks. Spare nails, the good wrench, oilcloth, 2 extra bolts, the gear kit. The small hammer, not the big one. Rope for tying. A sign with the drawing. He pauses. And the lunch you always make that makes people ask what's inside. Nothing special, Belle says, smiling. It must be special, he answers, or people wouldn't smile when they chew. They pack together. The basket fills slowly. Bread wrapped in cloth, cheese, apples, a small jar of jam. Belle adds 2 folded napkins and a knife with a wooden handle. She ties the basket and sets it by the door. Afternoon turns to evening. Belle and Maurice eat soup at the small table by the window. The workshop lamp burns low. They speak of simple things, the way the new neighbor keeps a robin's nest safe on the fence, the way the river sounds different when the wind is from the west, the way a clean gear feels like a good promise in the hand. Maurice grows quiet and looks at Belle with tender eyes. You know, he says, I used to worry I didn't know how to raise a child after your mother died. I thought I should teach you grand lessons with big speeches. But you taught me the small ones instead. How to read the air, how to be patient, how to make tea before fixing a problem. Belle reaches across the table and squeezes his hand. You taught me the bigger ones without speeches, she says. You showed me how to keep going, how to be kind, how to make something better even if no one is watching. They sit with that for a moment, not needing to say more. Night comes. Belle lays out Maurice's scarf, the one she mended last winter. She checks the seams on the travel sack. She oils the leather strap so it won't creak and suddenly break. She places a small silver button in his pocket. For luck, she says, though they both know luck is only a part of any story. Care is the other. He will leave at dawn. Sleep is needed. Belle tidies the table and washes the bowls. Maurice sets the device in the corner covered with a cloth. The room looks ready for morning. Before bed, Belle steps outside. The sky holds 1,000 quiet lights. The woods are a dark shape at the edge of sight, a folded blanket on the horizon. A little chill runs along her arms and she hugs herself. She's not frightened, just alert, the way the earth is alert before dawn. She goes back inside and sits on the edge of her bed. She opens a small box that holds little treasures, a ribbon, a tiny wooden bird her father carved, a pressed flower as thin as paper light. She touches each one. Then she closes the box and rests. The morning is thin and silver when she wakes. Maurice is already dressed. The kettle sings. They eat bread and apples standing up the way travelers do. Belle ties the basket to the back of the cart. She checks the harness twice. She pats Philippe's strong neck. The horse flicks an ear and seems to say, "We'll be fine." Belle adjusts her father's scarf and looks into his face. "You'll be safe," she says. "It is not a question." "I will," he promises. He places his hand on her cheek. "And you will be too." He climbs onto the cart, takes the reins, and clicks his tongue. The wheels creak, then roll. Belle walks beside the cart as far as the edge of the square. She keeps walking to the last curve before the road turns to the tree line. She stops there. Maurice lifts a hand. His smile is brave and bright. Belle lifts hers. "Back soon," he says. "Back soon," she answers. The cart moves on. Belle stands and watches until she sees nothing but the sway of branches and the beam of light through leaves. She waits 1 minute more. Then she turns and walks home, steady and calm, because that is how she has learned to meet the world, steady and calm. She sweeps the workshop. She dusts the shelf. She straightens the sign with the drawing of the device. She makes a pot of tea and drinks 1 cup, and saves one in a jar to cool, because her father likes cold tea in the afternoon. She reads 3 pages in the blue book. She writes a list of the people she will visit today. She hums the tune her father hummed yesterday. The day unfolds. Belle moves through it with the gentle order of someone who knows that small acts are the bones of a life. In the late afternoon, clouds gather. Wind picks up in the alley behind the workshop. Belle closes the shutters on the west side. She checks the latch on the back gate. She sets another candle on the shelf, ready to light when it gets dim. A few raindrops tap the roof. She listens. The sound is soft and steady, like fingers drumming a table. She opens the door a crack and smells wet leaves, cool stone, and a hint of pine from the far trees. She thinks of her father and Philippe in the cart. She thinks of the road bending into the woods. She sends a quiet wish into the rain for safe travel. Evening arrives. Belle lights the candle and sets it near the window. She reads by that light, slowly, as if each word is a step on a familiar path. The hero in the book has learned a new skill, waiting without worry. Belle smiles. She knows that skill. Night deepens. The workshop clock ticks. The flame makes a kind halo on the pane. Belle keeps the light in the window because sometimes a light is a line between 2 people. Even when they are far apart, it says, "I am here." It says, "Come home when you can." Somewhere, in the deep part of the woods, a branch snaps. Somewhere the wind moves low and quick. Somewhere a road grows narrow. But inside the workshop, inside the home, the air is warm and simple and full of good faith. Belle puts the book down and closes her eyes for a moment. When she opens them, she thinks she hears, under the rain, the faintest sound of hooves on stone. She stands and listens. The sound comes and goes, like a heartbeat under the wind. She steps to the door and opens it. The night looks back at her, dark and wet, but not unfriendly. She waits, and waits, and waits. The hooves do not arrive. Belle breathes in and out and tells herself what she always tells herself when the path is not yet clear. Be patient. Be kind. Keep the light where it can be seen. She closes the door and sits down with her hands folded in her lap. She looks at the candle flame. It bends and straightens in the draft, small but strong. "Tomorrow," she says softly to the room, to the street, to the road through the trees. "Tomorrow will come." For now, the house is quiet. The tea is warm. The story, like the light, is steady. And somewhere beyond the bend, the next page waits. Chapter 4. Gaston and the Narrow Path. Morning comes quiet and pale. Rain has washed the streets. The air smells new, like stone just cleaned by clouds. Belle opens the shutters. The square below shines a little. A woman shakes a rug. A boy chases a hat that the wind has stolen and then kindly gives back. Belle ties her hair and smooths her dress. She sets yesterday's candle by the window, cold now, but ready for night. She listens for hooves. Nothing. Only the small river voice and the soft scrape of a broom. She carries a basket to the door. Bread for Madame Fournier. A jar of soup for Monsieur Aveline. A folded letter for the bookseller, thanking him for the blue book and asking if he has any maps for the boy who loves rivers. These are light things, but they matter. They say, I see you. They say, we are neighbors. On her way across the square, Belle hears a laugh that tries to be the loudest sound in the morning. She turns. Gaston stands near the bakery, boots polished, coat bright, chin high. People look at him the way they look at a fireworks spark, brief, amused, and a little careful not to be too close when it pops. Belle, he calls, spreading his arms as if to hug the whole town. There you are. The sun is out, and so are you. Perfect. Good morning, Belle says, kind and steady. She stops because she has manners. She waits because he wants to speak. Gaston tips an imaginary hat. Doing your rounds again, helping people, reading things, explaining notices. You're always busy with small tasks. He smiles like the world is a mirror. Small tasks make a day, Belle says. They add up to a good life. He laughs. A good life? Yes. And imagine how much better your life would be if you joined it to mine. Think of it. Our names together, our door the grandest on the street, our table always full. You would not need to carry baskets or read other people's letters. You would rest. You would be admired. Belle's fingers tighten slightly on the basket handle. Not with anger, with focus. She chooses her words the way she chooses books, with care. Admiration is light, she says. It moves on the wind. I'd rather have conversation. I'd rather have someone who listens. I listen, Gaston says quickly. Belle waits. He rushes to fill the space. I listen to the river, to the woods, to the sound of my own footsteps when I walk. He grins, proud of the way his boots strike the cobbles. Belle's smile is small and true. Those are fine sounds. I like the quiet ones, too. The sound of a page, the sound of soup being stirred, the sound a person makes when they finally say what's in their heart. Gaston shifts. He looks at her, at the basket, at the street. He is not unkind. He is simply used to doors opening when he knocks. He thinks a little and then tries again, louder. Come to supper, he says. Tonight, I will bring the biggest roast and the biggest story. Everyone will see what a pair we are. Belle shakes her head gently. No, thank you. No? He blinks as if the word is new. No, Belle repeats, and her voice is soft but clear. I am not the right person for you, and you're not the right person for me. We like different kinds of quiet. He laughs again, but it sounds like a step that missed the stair. You're teasing. I'm not, she says. I'm sure. Gaston's smile stays, but his eyes tighten a little. The town watches with the kind of attention people have when they hope nothing will tip. Belle feels their eyes and keeps her balance like a person carrying a full bowl. Another time, then, Gaston says as if to save face, when you're in a different mood. I don't change this much, Belle answers. My answer will be the same, even on sunny days. LeFou flutters up, eager to turn the scene into a joke. Gaston, my friend, perhaps Belle is busy with a book club, or soup club, or... He looks at Belle and sees calm, not mockery, his hand slow. Or perhaps she knows her own mind, he finishes, smaller, truer. Gaston claps him on the shoulder and shakes the moment off. Of course she does, he says. Of course. He lifts his voice for the square. Everyone, enjoy your morning. The sun is shy. Let's cheer it up. People chuckle and go back to their tasks, grateful for quiet again. Belle inclines her head and moves on. She gives Madame Fournier the bread, which earns her a story about a cat who tried to steal a loaf and fell asleep in the flour bin, white as a ghost. She brings soup to Monsieur Aveline, who cries at the first spoonful because it tastes like the one his wife used to make, and he hasn't tasted that memory in a long time. Belle holds his hand. They say very little. It is enough. At noon, she stops by the bookshop. The bookseller has found 2 maps. One shows rivers like blue threads. The other shows small roads like brown stitching. He gives them to Belle with a wink. "For your young cartographer." She thanks him and starts toward the door, then turns back. "Have you heard anything from the fair?" she asks, trying to make the question sound like a cloud, not a stone. "Not yet," he says, gentle. "Sometimes news takes the long way home. It likes to see the country." Belle smiles at that and says she will return tomorrow. She steps into the sunlight and lets it sit on her shoulders like a shawl. She walks to the edge of town where the road bends toward the trees. She stands there a minute, not afraid, just listening. The woods are a dark choir. They sing of sap and wind and old roots that hold the hill. A jay scolds. A squirrel drops something and startles itself, then chases the mistake as if to scold it too. Belle watches the line where bright grass turns to shadow. She thinks of her father's promise. Back soon. She thinks of the candle in the window. I am here. The afternoon moves like honey, slow, warm, sweet. Back in the square, Gaston practices his best grin on a passing mirror and adjusts his collar as if victory is a jacket that just needs smoothing. Belle passes him with a nod and does not slow. She visits the schoolhouse and explains another notice. She ties a ribbon for a child whose fingers are not yet sure at bows. She checks on the robin's nest on the neighbor's fence. 3 tiny beaks rise like soft flames. She lowers her voice to a whisper, as if the air itself should be gentle too. Evening leans in. Shadows lengthen like questions. Belle lights the candle and sets it by the window again. The flame lifts, small and brave. She warms water for tea. She sits with her hands around the cup and watches the square fall quiet, one door at a time. Then she hears it. Hoofs. Hard and fast. She stands so quickly, the chair bumps the wall. She runs to the door and pulls it open. The sound grows. It bends around the last corner like a shout trying to become a whisper. Philippe charges into the square, foam on his sides, eyes wide, not wild, but begging to be understood. He stops in front of Belle as if her doorway is a goal he has held in his head for hours. He bows his head. The reins hang loose. The cart is not behind him. Belle steps forward with both hands up. "It's all right," she murmurs, the way her mother used to murmur, to a kettle, a baby, a frightened dog. "It's all right." Philippe blows hot breath against her sleeve. Belle runs her palm along his neck and feels the tremble under skin. "What happened?" she asks, as if a horse can answer with words. He answers with his body. He pulls back, then steps forward, then swings his head toward the road, then toward the woods, then back to her, as if to say, "Come. Please come." On the strap near his shoulder, something glints. Belle lifts it with her fingertips, a small silver button. It is the one she slipped into her father's pocket for luck. The thread must have loosened. The button must have fallen. Philippe must have carried it like a message. Belle's breath catches for one tiny moment. Not a panic, a decision coming to life. The square is waking again, not with mourning, but with worry. Doors open. Faces peer out. "Belle?" the bookseller calls. "Is that—" "Philippe," she answers. "He came back without my father." Gaston steps forward, drawn by the chance to be central. "A rescue?" His voice lifts, eager for bigness. "I'll go." Belle shakes her head. "You don't know the forest paths the way I do, and you do not know my father's way of choosing turns." She looks at Philippe's eyes. "But he does." Gaston looks like a flag with no wind. "Then I'll come with you," he says, because he cannot bear to be told no twice in one day. Belle is already moving, already tying the strap, already taking the small lamp from the wall and the blanket from the hook. She turns and meets Gaston's eyes with calm. "If you come," she says, "you follow. No shouting, no forcing. We go the way Philippe goes." He opens his mouth and then shuts it. Not because he agrees, but because the town is watching and they like Belle. Le Fou, who sees more than people think, tugs Gaston's sleeve and whispers. Sometimes the quiet one leads. Gaston huffs. "Fine," he says. "Fine." The bookseller brings a second lantern and presses it into Belle's hand. "Take this," he says. "It's steady." Belle nods. "Thank you." She swings onto Philippe's back, smooth as if she has done it every day of her life. The horse settles, as if relief is a saddle he knows well. She pats his shoulder. "Home," she whispers. "Take me where you left him." Philippe turns. He does not pause. He does not pose. He runs. The square blurs to a breath. The houses become a soft line. The last gate of town opens its arms, and they are through. Grass gives way to packed earth. Packed earth gives way to the first fallen needles of the wood. Light thins. Sound deepens. The trees close above like a roof built by old hands. Belle leans low and trusts. She knows only 3 things, and they are enough. Her father is somewhere ahead. The horse remembers. And love is steady even in the dark. Behind them, Gaston follows, boots too loud, pride too wide for narrow paths. He is not cruel. He is simply unused to hearing anything but his own footfalls. The forest teaches softly that there are other rhythms. He hears his breathing. He hears the horse's breath. He hears Belle's small voice, soothing and strong. "Good, Philippe. Good. I'm here." The path bends. The air cools. The night begins. The narrow road becomes a thin thread. Philippe places each hoof like a careful word. Belle keeps the lantern shielded. Light touches bark, then leaves, then mud, then a hidden stone. The forest, which from far away looks like a single dark thing, reveals itself to be many small, not dark things. Moss, a fern, a snail, a fallen feather, a mushroom like a soft ear. Fear loses its big shape when you see the little shapes inside it. A cry lifts from somewhere deep, wolves calling to each other to say, "I am here." It is not a threat, not yet. It is a map scribbled in sound. Gaston grips a branch and pulls it the wrong way, and it snaps back at him. He swears under his breath. Le Fou, far behind now, decides that the safest thing in the world is to find his bed and hide under it. He quietly turns back. No one notices. Belle notices only the line of Philippe's shoulders and the way his ears flick toward every sound. She lies forward and lets her heart match the horse's rhythm. This is not courage like a trumpet. This is courage like a lullaby. When the trees press close, she whispers, "We'll pass." When the wind hisses, she whispers, "We'll listen." When the lantern gutter flames, she shields it with her palm and whispers, "We'll keep going." They reach a fork. One path looks wide and obvious. The other looks narrow and careful. Gaston points to the wide one, ready to declare, to command. Philippe chooses the narrow without even looking at the wide. Belle lets him. Gaston has to push through a bramble and mutters about thorns that do not respect fine coats. The thorns do not answer. They have no interest in coats. At last the trees thin. A cold breath moves across Belle's face. The path drops into a hollow where the air holds the scent of old stone and iron and a touch of something like snow even where no snow lives. Philippe stops. Belle lifts the lantern. A wall rises in front of them, tall as winter, carved with frost-like curls and vines that are not vines but iron pretending to be leaves. A gate like a locked cloud stands closed. Behind the iron, far inside, high above, a single light wakes, and then go still, listening. Belle's voice is very small and very brave all at once. "Papa?" No answer. Only the gate's low hum like a throat thinking. Gaston comes up, breath loud, words ready to leap. "What is this place? Who builds a wall this high? Who dares to—" Belle raises her hand without looking at him, and the words drop like pebbles in snow, quiet at once. She leans forward. She touches the iron. It is cold, and then very faintly, it is warm, as if something on the other side recognizes the shape of a good hand. "Please," Belle says to the gate, to the night, to the idea of doors that open when a person asks with the right kind of heart. "My father is inside. Let me in." Nothing moves. Then somewhere deep, a lock considers, somewhere up high, a hinge remembers. The iron shivers, just once, like a tree in a very soft wind. The gate opens. Only a little. Just enough for one person and one horse to pass through. Gaston steps forward, hungry to be the one who crosses first. Philippe takes one quiet step, so Belle goes before him. Gaston's hand, reaching, touches nothing but the cold air behind her. The forest watches, patient as old stone. Belle's lantern makes a small gold path on the ground. She follows it inside. The gate sighs as it closes. A bell far within the castle counts a single, slow time. The night holds its breath. And the story goes on. Chapter 5. The forest path and a door of iron. Inside the wall, the world changes. Air cools and grows still, as if the wind is reading a book and does not want to lose its place. The path is not dirt, but old stone set by hands that cared about straight lines very long time ago. Hedges sleep in tall shapes. Statues stand like thoughts frozen at the moment, before someone speaks them. Belle breathes in and lets the lantern's glow press softly against the dark. Not a fight. A meeting. "Papa?" She calls again to the hedges, to the statues, to the high windows that look like they might remember faces. Philippe walks at her shoulder, careful and close. His ear brushes Belle's arm. She pats his neck. "Good," she whispers. "We're here." Gaston tries to widen his voice to fill the courtyard, but the courtyard is not impressed by wide voices. "Maurice!" he shouts. The sound flattens and slides off the stone like water off oiled cloth. Gaston scowls. Whoever owns this place has no manners. Belle looks up. A single window burns a small square of light. She thinks of her candle back in the village and feels how one light can be a promise, even if it belongs to a stranger. They come to the great door, iron, thick, carved with vines and roses and little birds caught in an old dream. Belle lifts her fist and knocks 3 times. The sound goes into the door and becomes a deeper sound, as if the door has a chest inside it and a slow heart. For a long breath, nothing. Then something on the other side wakes. A bolt slides with the weight of a winter. The door moves, not much, a hand width. Cold air kisses Belle's face. It smells like stone and old smoke and a note of something green, like plants sleeping under snow. Belle speaks softly into the space. "Please, my father. He is lost. He is kind. He is not strong in cold spaces." Her voice answers. It is not human only, it is a voice from a throat that has learned how to be a different shape. Low, rough at the edges, not cruel, wary. "Why do you come?" "My father did not return from the fair. His horse brought me here." She touches Philippe's mane. "There was a sign, a small button that was his. I believe he is inside." "People who enter this place do not always leave," the voice says. "Why would you open a door that might close behind you?" Belle does not need to think. Because love does not wait while someone grows colder. The door opens wider. Come. The hall beyond is vast, but the lantern holds its own, making a small circle in which Belle can place her feet. The floor is a checkerboard of old marble. The air holds dust that dances when the lantern sighs. On the walls hang portraits of people who seem to be listening. Here, the voice says from the far end of the hall. It comes from shadow. It comes from height. It fills the air the way a storm can fill the sky and still leave a small bird flying. Belle steps closer. She sees a figure where the staircase begins, big as a bear, shoulders like a door. Horns curve from a brow that looks carved, then softened by years. Eyes, though. Eyes cannot lie about their nature. These are tired and careful and a little surprised at the sight of someone who looks back without flinching. I am Belle, she says. I am... He stops, as if the end of the sentence has been lost in an old drawer. I am the master here. Is my father? In the tower, the beast says, and the word carries both care and guilt, like someone admitting they spoke too sharply an hour ago. He came without permission. He warmed himself. He took a rose. The beast's eyes flick toward a corridor. There are rules in this house. Rules keep order, Belle says softly. Kindness keeps life. She sets the lantern on the floor, the flame steady as a thought that refuses to blow out. Please let me see him. If he has done wrong, blame me. He taught me everything I know. I must have taught him something in return. The beast watches her with a gaze that has frightened many because they looked only at the outside shape. He is not used to a person listening to the inside of him, where the words are heavier and more careful. Something in him leans toward that listening. He signals with one clawed hand. Follow. They climb. The stairs curl like a shell. The air grows cooler. At a narrow landing, a small door waits. The beast lifts the latch. The door opens. Maurice sits on a straw-strewn pallet, wool blanket pulled up high, hat askew, glasses fogged with breath. He blinks at the lantern light, then blinks a second time at his daughter, as if joy itself is too bright. Belle? She kneels. She holds his face between her palms, warm enough. Thank the quiet heavens. I'm here, Papa. I'm here. He tries to speak. The words trip and the thought goes ahead anyway. I was lost, he says. The woods. Then wolves. Then here. I saw fire. I thought I would leave a thank you on the table. Just a rose to remind me of you. He looks at the beast, ashamed. I did not know there was a rule. Belle wraps the blanket tighter around him and looks up at the beast. Thank you for sheltering him, even if the first welcome was rough. Her tone is gentle, but her eyes ask a question. Can we carry him out? The beast answers the question that was not said. He broke the law of this house, he says, and the words taste old in his mouth, like something he was made to say long ago. There must be a balance. Belle breathes in. She sits back on her heels. She folds her hands. Sometimes to be brave, you must be still. Then make the balance with me, she says. Let him go warm and well. Take me instead. Maurice jerks, as if a hidden string has been pulled. Belle! She puts a hand on his arm. Hush, Papa. No, he says, voice scraping. No, you are the son of my days. You will not... Belle's eyes soften. I am your daughter, she says. You raised me to choose the good thing when it is my turn to choose. It is my turn. The beast studies her. His breath is a low wind between teeth made for meat, and now used for too many small sorries. He could say yes to the old rule. He could say no and send them both away because Choice is heavy, and he is tired of carrying heavy things. But he remembers a night long ago when a different door opened, and he refused what was asked of him then. He remembers the weight of that refusal. He remembers cold. He closes his eyes and hears his own voice ask, lower than the hall's floor, "Why would you do this?" Belle does not look at the fangs or the claws. She looks only at the part of a person that cannot be seen but can be heard. "Because I love him." The beast is quiet a very long moment. The tower holds the breath of the three of them and does not drop it. At last, the beast nods once, a nod that has the strength of a tree deciding to bend. "Go," he says to Maurice, and the word is both an order and a gift. "She will stay in your place." Maurice tries to argue again, but Belle takes his hands and places them over the blanket, as if to tuck his words in. "Go home," she whispers. "Drink the tea in the jar, eat the bread, keep the light in the window. I will see it. I will know." He sobs once, like a knot breaking, and then he stands because love needs the shape of trust to move. The beast steps back to let him pass. Philippe waits at the base of the stairs as if he knew the shape of this choice before any human did. Maurice goes down. The sound of the steps is careful. Careful, careful. Belle stands and faces the beast. Her hands are empty now. The lantern still glows on the floor where she set it. The flame is steady. "Thank you," she says. He does not answer. He cannot say the words yet. He only lifts his hand and gestures toward the hall. "Come," he says, and the word means more than one thing. They walk back through the great stair and the wide corridor. They pass a tall door where frost patterns the glass from the inside, a room that hums like a beehive in winter, even though no bees live here, a hallway where portraits look away as if shy, then peek back when they think no one is looking. Belle feels the house paying attention. At the bottom of the stairs, a shape steps from a shadow. It is a candlestick. It is a person. Both are true. He bows with a warm little flare, as if flame itself has manners. "Mademoiselle," he says, voice bright and rich, "welcome. I am Lumière. It is a great mercy on this cold house to meet you." "Lumière," Belle repeats, smiling despite everything, because the name fits him the way light fits a window. "Thank you." Behind him, a little wooden clock coughs a polite cough. "Ahem. Protocol, Lumière. Protocol." He hops forward on small carved feet and bows with the exact same angle as the candlestick, though his face is all angles and concern. "Good evening. Cogsworth, head of household. We are very pleased to, receive you." He glances up at the beast to see if he has chosen the right words. The beast lifts one shoulder. "She will stay," he says, like a judge who hopes someone will appeal. From the corner of the hall, steam floats in the air like a comforter. A teapot rolls forward on a tray. Her voice is warmth poured into a shape. "Oh, my dear," she says, "what a night you've had. Let's get you warm on the inside." She bumps the tray to stop, careful and steady. "Mrs. Potts," she says by way of greeting. "And this is my son, Chip." A small cup peeks around her lid. A little chip at his rim looks like a dimple. "Hello," he pipes. "You came on a horse. Did the horse tell you any jokes? I know one." Belle kneels to be eye to eye with the teacup, because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is meet someone at their level. "Tell me tomorrow," she says. "Tonight I will listen better if there is tea in you." He giggles, that small Belle giggle cups must make, and nods as much as a cup can. The beast clears his throat. It is the sound of rocks adjusting under snow. "Show her a room," he says to the household, shaped by magic and routine. "A warm one." He turns to go, then stops and turns back like someone who wants to undo a knot in a rope that has been tied for years. If you need anything, he looks at the claws and the horns and the way shadows like to sit on his shoulders. Ask them, he finishes, because kindness feels safer when it wears a different face. Belle nods. Thank you, she says again. Not because she must, but because gratitude is a light that does not go out when you set it down. The beast goes. His steps are big and sound like history. Lumière watches him with the eyes of a friend who has not stopped hoping, despite many winters. He turns back to Belle and brightens his flame with a gentle pride. This way, mademoiselle. They walk through halls that remember music. Rugs hush their steps. The walls whisper with tapestries that show gardens that look a little like the one outside, only awake in a different season. Cogsworth walks half a step ahead, ticking with nerves and purpose. We have, many fine rooms, he says. And, some under repair, and, some best avoided. He glances left at a corridor that feels like a breath held too long. But we'll find you the right one. Yes, of course, the right one. Protocol insists. Mrs. Potts murmurs to Chip. Keep steady, love. No splashing. I never splash, Chip says, splashing a little with excitement. Almost never. Lumière opens a door with a flourish. Inside is a room where the bed is turned down as if it has been waiting, where the fire dances as if it has been practicing for this very moment, where the window looks out on a piece of sky that is somehow less cold than the rest. Belle steps in and feels warmth reach for her. It is the kind of warmth that comes from more than wood. It comes from welcome. Is this, she begins. Yours, Mrs. Potts says, for as long as you need it. Belle's throat tightens with a feeling that is not sadness, not fear, not joy. It is the feeling a person has when a bridge appears the moment they reach the edge of a river. Thank you, she says for the third time, as if the word itself is building the bridge plank by plank. Chip hops on his saucer. I'll bring extra sugar, he says. Sugar helps with everything. Not with everything, Cogsworth says reflexively, because rules are his blanket. But, yes, with many things, sensibly applied. Lumière lowers his flames, so they glow small and kind. Rest, he says. Tomorrow we will show you the library. Belle's eyes widen. Library? A sight for sore winters, Lumière says with a grin that could warm a forest. But first, tea, then sleep. Mrs. Potts pours. The steam smells like flowers that only bloom in old, safe gardens. Belle wraps her hands around the cup. Her fingers finally stop shaking. Your father is on his way home by now, Mrs. Potts says, not as a question. He will see the candle. He will drink the jar tea. He will keep the light for you. Belle nods, eyes wet. Yes, she whispers. He will. She drinks, she breathes. The room breathes with her. The castle seems to exhale for the first time in a long time, as if the house itself has been waiting for a person who puts her hand on a door and asks, please. Outside, snow that is not snow drifts in the garden. Inside, a girl with a book lover's heart sets her bag down in a room in a castle and chooses again to be kind. The night puts its ear to the window and listens to her sleep. Chapter 6. Candles, Clocks, and Teacups. Household of the heart. Morning edges in like a shy friend. The fire is ash and amber. The window glows with a pale sky that promises a fair day, even in a place where winter is a habit. Belle sits up slowly. The room remembers not to startle her. The sheets are warm, the rug is soft. Her shoes have been set just so beside the bed, laces tucked inside as if someone believed in untangled mornings. She stands and goes to the window. The garden looks like a dream paused. Hedges hold their shapes. Statues hold their thoughts. Frost writes cursive on the glass and then erases it with a sigh. A soft knock. "Come in," Belle says. The door opens. A wardrobe on small wheels rolls in, humming to herself and shedding a tiny shower of cedar scent, like kindness in wood form. "Good morning, dear," she sings, not singing, just speaking in a key that makes your shoulders relax. "I am Madame Wardrobe. If you need dresses or shawls or the right kind of pocket, I am your friend." Belle smiles. "I always need the right kind of pocket." "Then we shall be very close," Madame Wardrobe says, pleased. She opens her doors. Inside, folded and hung, are garments that look like they belong to someone who liked to feel warm and well and able to move. "Try this," she says, tugging forward a simple day dress in deep blue. "It will make your eyes look like honest sky." Belle changes behind the screen. The fabric is soft and strong. The sleeves sit right. The dress feels like a conversation that will not rush her. Lumière's voice comes through the doorway like sun through leaves. "Breakfast, mademoiselle." Belle steps out. Mrs. Potts waits on a tray with toast and honey, eggs that steam gently, and a small dish of berries that look like captured dawn. Chip wobbles with excitement, then steadies his saucer bravely. "Eat," Mrs. Potts says. "Thinking takes fuel. Talking takes even more," Chip adds, wise beyond his handle. Cogsworth does not come all the way in. He hovers at the line between hall and room, courteous, counting door hinges with his eyes. The master requests, invites, notes. He glances at Lumière, who gives him a small nod. "Would be pleased if you would join him later for a tour of the grounds." Belle considers her heart. It is not calm exactly, but it is not afraid. More like a bird that has decided the hand is steady enough to land on it. "I would like that," she says. "Excellent." "Protocol bows," Cogsworth says, and something like a smile softens his carved corners. After breakfast, Lumière leads Belle through the house. He does not rush. He does not push. He moves at the speed of someone who wants a person to see what he loves, not just pass through it. The great hall is less frightening by day. Stairs sweep in two arcs that meet like hands. Tapestries breathe old color. A paint crack in a portrait looks, to Belle, like a tear line on a proud face. She touches the frame lightly. "I see you," she thinks. Whether to the painter or the painted, she's not sure. They stop at a music room where an old harpsichord dozes. Lumière hops to the bench and plays a few notes. They're not loud. They're like a warm-up before a lullaby. The room smiles. They look in on a greenhouse that glows low under glass. Inside, herbs keep their secrets sweet and strong. Tiny figs pretend not to ripen, while Belle watches. She laughs. "I won't tell," she murmurs, and a leaf lifts as if in thanks. They pass a door that hums in a different key. Cool, close, almost like a warning. Lumière lowers his flame and his voice together. "The West Wing," he says. "Best to leave it alone." Belle looks down the hall. The air there feels like a jar with the lid on too tight. She nods. "I understand." She means it. She also feels the gentle pull that all closed doors have, like a book that wants to be read and be better for it. She tucks that feeling away the way she tucks a good line into her notebook. Not to forget, not to rush. They come at last to a pair of high doors bound with carved vines. Lumière pauses and straightens himself as if to deliver a gift. "And now," he says, "the library." He pushes, and the doors swing open with the polite drama of curtains parting before a story. The room beyond is a sea of shelves, 2 floors high, ladders waiting, sunlight painted into squares on the floor. Books line every wall, wearing coats of leather, cloth, paper, thread. They smell like ink and time in the hands of readers who turn pages with care. Belle steps forward as if a choir began to sing. She does not speak. Her eyes speak for her. They fill, they clear, they fill again. A person could live here forever and not be lonely. It is yours, Lumière says, and then laughs at his own boldness. To use, I mean. To borrow. To love. Belle touches a spine with one finger, as if meeting a new friend. She chooses a book at random and opens it. Inside is a map of a shore she has never seen, with a lighthouse drawn as if by someone who was both very far away and very close. She smiles. Thank you, she says, for this room, for the idea that it's mine to love. Mrs. Potts rolls in with a little clink of cups. The master did a brave thing, letting this room breathe again, she says. He closed it for a long time. It hurt to see it sleep. Belle does not ask why he closed it. She suspects she will learn. She suspects the answer is a story like any book on these shelves. Layers, reasons, a person trying to carry something too heavy until their hands shook. She reads a page, another. Then she closes the book and holds it to her chest. I will take care, she says. Lumière beams. Of course you will. They tour the grounds. The garden walks curve like polite sentences, never ending abruptly, always finding a soft way to stop. Statues pose with shy pride. A fountain that must have laughed once now only whispers. Belle trails her fingers in the water and feels it cold and true. Does the master ever walk here, she asks. Sometimes, Lumière says. At night, when he cannot sleep, he counts the petals on the rose. The rose? Belle asks, turning. Lumière spreads his hands and looks toward the west wing, then back, as if the subject is a candle in a draught, delicate, needed, unpredictable. There is a rose, he says simply. It keeps time differently than other roses. We will not speak of it long, in case the speaking shakes it. Belle accepts the boundary the way she accepts a closed book she has not yet earned. All right. They eat lunch in a small sunroom where the glass holds light like a bowl. Mrs. Potts tells a story about a winter when the pipes froze and how many kettles it takes to convince a stubborn pipe to behave. Chip adds a sound effect for each kettle. Cogsworth corrects the count, then apologizes for correcting, then feels better because order and apology together feel like a balanced pocket. At last, Lumière glances at the clock that is also their friend. The hour, he says. The master will be hungry, Mrs. Potts finishes fond. Anxious, Cogsworth says, honest. Both, Lumière nods. Belle wipes her hands on the napkin and sits a little straighter like a student ready to learn. What should I know, she asks, not to arm herself, but to be fair. Mrs. Potts pours more tea. He has a good heart that forgot its shape, she says. He can be harsh when he is afraid. He has been afraid for a long time. Afraid of what? Belle asks. Of being seen and not loved, Mrs. Potts answers, as quick and soft as a hand catching a falling cup. Belle's eyes lower to the steam. She thinks of the library closed behind a door. She thinks of a rose that counts time. She thinks of the way he stepped back to let her father pass. She thinks of the way he could not say, "You're welcome." I can be brave and kind at the same time, she says aloud, to remind herself of how to stand. Of course you can, Lumière says. That is why the door opened. Evening steps across the lawn. The castle gathers itself for night the way a bird tucks its head under its wing. Candles wake. Fires stretch. The smell of supper curls through the air and makes everyone feel both hungrier and safer. In the dining hall, the table is long enough to seat a parade. The master sits at one end because habit is fierce. Belle stands at the doorway and looks for the right place to begin. Lumière clears his throat to present her, then sees she does not need presenting and lets the moment be small and honest. Belle walks to the far end of the table, and then, without fanfare, without drama, she stops halfway and takes a chair there, not near, not far, but where two people can speak if they wish and ignore if they must. The beast watches. His hands, huge, careful, frustrated by their own size, rest on the table as if not to frighten the plates. He wears a coat that has known winters. His eyes try not to be hungry for the wrong things. "Thank you for the room," Belle says, "and the library." She puts gratitude on the table the way one sets bread down for everyone to share. The beast makes a sound that wants to be a word. "It was nothing," he says, because he does not yet know how to name the things that are most. Belle nods, accepting even the clumsy shape of the gift. "Would you tell me about the grounds?" she asks. "The hedges, the statues? Did someone choose their places with care?" "No one asked me that," he says, surprised into honesty. "I'm not no one," Belle says very gently. He blinks, and then, like a door that has been dry so long it creaks when it swings, he tells her a little about the old gardener, and the spring when the fountain was new, and the winter when the fish pond froze so clear the stars seemed to fall and land there. His voice grows less sharp. He looks once at her hands, which rest on the table like birds at ease. They eat. He learns to wait for her to lift her fork before he lifts his. She learns he will eat the burnt edge of anything first, so no one else has to. Mrs. Potts floats in and out like the tide of comfort. After supper, Belle stands. "May I explore a little?" she asks. Because permission is another way to be kind. "Not the West Wing," he says. The words jumping before kindness can put a hand on his shoulder. He winces at himself. "Please," he adds, like a coat put on after the fact to warm a chill. "All right," Belle says. She means it. She walks the shallow halls. She finds a room where someone left a game half played and then forgot for years. She finds a chair by a window that looks like it has been waiting for a person who likes to look at rain. She finds a door that opens onto a balcony where air touches her face without any desire to rush her. She leans on the cold rail. The night smells like petrichor and ash and something floral that must be the memory of summer soaps. Inside, a clock counts. Somewhere below, Lumière tells a joke too old to be funny and somehow makes it kind again. Cogsworth pretends to be offended. Chip laughs with his whole rim. Belle thinks of her father and the candle in the window. She can almost see it from here if she look with the heart more than the eyes. She closes her eyes and whispers, "I am all right." The words find their way home on a path made of faith in the way horses remember. She turns back inside, and just for a moment, her steps take her not to the blue hall with the gentle pictures, not to the garden room with the rounded glass, but toward a corridor where the air tastes like a secret held too long. She stops at the edge of shadow. The West Wing breathes. Belle does not enter. She is a person who keeps her word. But she looks down the dim run of carpet and sees in her mind a single cloche of glass, a faint glow, a truth that would be better honored by seeing it than by fearing it. Not yet, she tells herself. Not yet. She turns. She walks back. The house lets out a long, small breath that could be relief, could be patience. In her room, Madame Wardrobe has set a robe on the chair and a book on the table and a sprig of dried lavender on the pillow. Belle touches the lavender and thinks of fields. She thinks of bees. She thinks of summer dresses with the right number of pockets. She sits on the edge of the bed and opens the book. It is about a woman who teaches sparrows to eat from her hand by standing still every day at the same time until the birds understood that stillness could be a kind of food. Belle smiles. She reads a page. She reads another. She closes the book and holds it. A knock. Soft. "Come in," she says. The beast stands in the doorway, large as a doorway, trying to make himself smaller, which is like a mountain trying to be a hill. He looks at her and then at the floor, which is easier. I wanted to... The library," he says, curling under the weight of his own tongue. "Does it please you?" Belle's face lights the way candles light kitchens, the kind of light that makes a home. "Yes," she says simply. "More than I can say." He nods, a little dazed by success. "Good," he says. And then, because he has rarely been allowed to leave a room with good in it, he leaves before he ruins it. Belle watches the door close. She smiles to herself. She sets the book down. She lies back. The lavender listens to her breath and agrees with its pace. Down the hall, Mrs. Potts tells Chip that some days are seeds and some are sprouts and some are flowers, and you must love each day for the thing it is. Chip asks which day this was. "A sprout," she says. "A brave little green." In the great hall, Lumière blows his flames to embers and hums a song about patience that never had words. Cogsworth winds himself exactly 7 turns, and then, because no one is looking, 1 extra half-turn for luck. The castle sleeps. It is not the old sleep, heavy and lonely. It is the new sleep, where 2 people in different rooms dream in the direction of each other without knowing it. Outside, the hedges hold their breath with the soft pride of hosts who hope their guest will stay. And far away in a small town, a candle in a window burns like a star that knows exactly where its light is needed. Tomorrow will bring the first snow that is not snow, the first laugh that surprises a careful mouth, the first question that will ask to be answered in a room where a rose keeps time. But for now, breathe in, breathe out. The house of the heart is warm. Chapter 7. The Rose and the Clock. The story beneath the spell. Morning slips in like a soft ribbon. The castle wakes without hurry. Fires stretch. Rugs remember footsteps. Belle reads 2 pages in the library, then closes the book and listens to the quiet. It feels different today, like a question, small and polite, waiting at the edge of a doorway. Lumière shows her a gallery of portraits. Cogsworth lists the years in order, proud and fussy and dear. Mrs. Potts arrives with a tray and a look that says, "Rest, then look, then learn." Belle does all 3. After lunch, clouds gather. Snow, thin as feathers, begins to fall. The windows turn to white frames. Belle thanks Mrs. Potts, thanks Lumière, thanks the day. Then she walks alone. She does not choose the West Wing. Her feet do. They move because curiosity moves them, but also care. Some doors want to be opened only by a person who will look gently. Belle knows this. She has opened many books that way. The corridor is quiet in a different key. The air holds a breath it has been saving. She passes torn curtains that still look elegant, like an old coat worn by someone kind. A broken chair leans against a wall as if listening at a keyhole. Belle lowers her voice without speaking. At the end of the hall, she finds a room where the roof lets down a pale circle of sky. In the center stands a glass bell, clear, flawless, light as a held note. Under it, a rose glows. Petals hold their red as if dawn is inside them. A single petal loosens, thinks, and stays. Belle steps forward. Not close enough to touch. Close enough to see. Time lives here. But it is not cruel. It is a teacher with patient eyes. "Hello," Belle whispers to the rose because she is the kind of person who greets a thing before she asks it to explain itself. "You must be important." On a table nearby sits a mirror, oval and bright. Its silver looks like still water on a windless morning. Belle lifts it in both hands. "Show me my father," she says. Not because someone told her the rules, but because love is fluent in many languages. The glass warms. A room appears, small, neat, with a window that holds a candle like a star in a little sky. Maurice sleeps under a quilt. The lamp breathes low. The tea jar stands empty on the table. Safe, Belle thinks, with a rush of relief that makes her knees want to sit. He is safe. A floorboard answers with a long, careful creak. Belle turns. The beast stands in the doorway, larger than the doorway, breathing like someone who began to run and then remembered to stop. His eyes go to the rose, then to the mirror in her hands, then to her face. All the winters he has carried gather in his shoulders. "This room is not for you," he says. The words are heavy, not because he wants to scare, but because he does not know how to set them down kindly. "This is mine." Belle hears the fear under the ruff. She hears the plea under the rule. She lowers the mirror and sets it on the table with care. "I'm sorry," she says. The apology is true. So is the pull she felt to understand. "I told you not to come here," he says, which is not quite true. He told her not to, yes, but with a please. He is not angry at her. He is angry at the way a heart can be so near and still feel unreachable. "You don't know what this is." "I don't," Belle agrees, "but I can learn." He steps closer. His shadow covers the rose and the floor, and the idea of a future he hasn't let himself imagine. "Leave," he says, and now it sounds like fear's last defense. "Leave this room. Leave this castle if you want. Leave before—" He stops. "Before what?" "Before you see me. Before I hope." Belle's own fear is small, not of him, of hurting a thing already hurt. She nods. "All right," she says. "I will go." She moves past him without flinching. That matters. She does not rush. That matters, too. Some part of him that has forgotten gentleness notices both, and writes them down behind his ribs. In the corridor, Belle breathes once, then twice. The snow at the window is thicker now. The house is warmer than it has been in years, but her chest is cold with an old ache. The ache of being misunderstood, of stepping wrong when she meant to step right. She finds her room. She finds her cloak. She leaves a note for Mrs. Potts. "I need air. I will be careful. Please don't worry." She leaves the note because worry shrinks when it is invited to sit. At the great door, the latch lifts with a sigh that sounds like a promise and a warning at once. Belle steps into the white. The snow is deeper than it looks. The trees lean like kind giants. Wolves watch from the edge of the world with eyes that are not cruel, only hungry and bright. Philippe waits where Belle left him last night, as if he has decided his job is to appear whenever a brave heart needs a horse. She strokes his nose. "Home," she whispers. Not sure if she means her father's cottage or the place she will make inside herself, no matter where she is. They ride. Behind them, far up in the west wing, a petal loosens further, thinks again, and falls, quiet as a yes spoken at the right time. The clock in the hall counts. The rose keeps time. And somewhere between them a change decides to begin. Chapter 8. Dinner, snow, and a gift of pages. Snow widens the world and narrows the path. Wind lifts the flakes, sets them down, lifts again, as if testing how warm a body can feel while the air is cold. Philippe moves like a careful drumbeat. Belle lowers her head, makes herself small behind his mane, and listens for the forest's soft instructions. Step here. Pause. Breathe. Keep going. The wolves slide out of the trees like shadows given legs. Not many. Enough. They are not evil. They are winter-shaped like animals. Hunger is not a plan. It is a need with teeth. Belle dismounts to steady Philippe around a drift. A wolf steps closer, then closer again, nose full of horse, eyes full of survival. Belle raises her arms, not to fight, but to be larger. It buys a breath. Sometimes a breath is everything. A roar tears the white. It is the beast. He is snow and muscle, and a memory of sunlight in a dark coat. He comes not as a storm, but as a wall between hunger and the thing he will not lose. Claws rake ice, not flesh. Teeth snap air, not bone. He does not kill. He convinces. The wolves, who have known forests longer than any prince, understand when they are outmatched by a heart that has chosen a side. They melt back into the trees. Belle stands very still. Philippe stamps a hoof and snorts in agreement with the result. The beast breathes hard. Blood stains the snow near his shoulder. His eyes are wild, not with rage, but with a fear he cannot name, almost losing something he did not admit he cared about. "You left," he says, wind in the words. "I needed air," Belle answers, which is true. "And I made a mistake." She steps forward. "You're hurt." "It is nothing," he says, because he has lived so long, thinking pain is a kind of tax he must pay in silence. He takes one step, and the white wobbles. Pain is a nothing. "Lean me," Belle says. She puts herself under his arm as if he is a branch heavy with snow that must be held through a short winter. He hesitates, then trusts. Together they move, slow, awkward, steady, back toward the house that has been waiting its whole life to see this exact sight. In the entrance hall, the household rushes like warm water. Mrs. Potts brings hot cloths. Lumière's flames flare, then lower to a healing glow. Cogsworth times the seconds between breaths and pretends it makes him useful. Chip counts how many steps Belle took without stopping and decides to be brave today because she was brave first. On a couch near the fire, the beast lies with the kind of stiffness that belongs to people who fear their bodies for what they can't do. Belle kneels beside him with a bowl and bandages and a voice that knows how to move pain from flood to trickle. "Hold still," she says, soft and firm. He holds. "This will sting," she warns. It does. He flinches and does not pull away. "Thank you for coming," she says, and means to say more about the West Wing, about the rose, about fear that dresses up as rules. But gratitude is enough for first step. "Thank you." He looks at her. No one has thanked him in a long time. Not for catching, not for saving, not for choosing gentleness while being strong. "You're welcome," he says, and hears how new it sounds in his mouth. The wound is not deep. It is loud because snow makes everything louder. Belle wraps it. She ties the knot with hands that have tied ribbons and bundles, and once, long ago, a white string on a funeral bouquet. The knot holds. Days slow. Snow teaches them a different rhythm. Morning is tea and pages in the library. Midday is a walk in the garden where frost is lace on hedges and Belle tells stories about towns where children race sleds down sunlit lanes. Afternoon is practice in small courtesies. He lifts a chair for her. She laughs at a joke that deserves a laugh. They speak at the same time and then both stop to let the other go first. At supper, the table is shorter. They do not sit end to end. They sit across from each other where forks and ideas are easier to share. One evening, the beast clears his throat in the careful way of a person placing a gift on the table. There is something I hadn't opened in a while, he says. I would like you to have it, or use it, or teach it. How to be alive again. He leads her to the library. Lumière opens the doors, but the light that follows is not his. It is Belle's face when she sees what has changed. Ladders gleam with fresh polish. A reading chair near the window has been mended, so the spring no longer sighs under weight. On a long table, books stand in tidy rows, poems, travel journals, folk tales, histories, each chosen with someone in mind, each exactly right for her. You did this? Belle asks, fingers to lips. I asked the booksellers in town for help, the beast says, almost shy. And I listened when you spoke. You like maps. You like true things told simply. You like, endings that feel earned. Belle turns a slow circle, taking it in. There is no larger gift than to be seen and then cared for in the language you speak best. It's yours, he says, and blinks, startled by his own courage. The library. Belle's eyes brighten like candles held inside water. Steady, protected, warm. Then it is ours, she says, because the truest gifts change both the giver and the given too. They open a book together, not a large one. A small collection of tales about quiet heroes and the ways people rescue each other without trumpets. Belle reads first. Her voice is clear and calm. Then she hands the book to him. He hesitates and then reads. His voice is low and careful and lovely in its softness. The words land gently on the air and stay there. Snow keeps falling. The castle keeps listening. Petals keep their count. But something new has begun. A conversation that stretches across hours like a path through trees. The kind that remembers your feet even when you forget the way. Chapter 9. Wolves rescue healing. Two hearts in winter. Winter holds a mirror to everything. The days are brighter because the ground shines back. The nights are deeper because the world has fewer sounds. In that clearness, the smallest things become visible. The way Belle places a cup just so. The way the beast waits for her to laugh before he does. The way the household hums at a different pitch now that hope sits in the hall like an extra chair. The wound heals. Belle changes the bandage for the last time and smiles. There, she says. Mended. The beast flexes his shoulder like a person trying on a new word. Thank you, he says, and it is easier now. They walk in the garden after a fresh fall. Belle shows him how to catch snowflakes on his sleeve and look at the tiny stars before they melt. He shows her a path he used to walk as a boy, where a particular hedge makes a little cave of leaves in summer. He has not stepped into it in years. Together they stoop and look. The green is gone, but you can still see the shape of shade. In the library, they trade stories. Belle speaks of the town, its gentle ways, its small mistakes, its goodness. The beast listens with a hunger that is not the old kind. He wants to know the names of streets, and the smell of the bakery at 4 a.m, and the little superstition where people touch the fountain before a long trip and say, "See you soon." He tells her, haltingly, about tutors who seemed always far away even when they stood right beside him, about a ballroom that used to breathe, about a night when a stranger at the door asked for shelter, and he answered with pride instead of welcome. He does not name the spell. He does not need to. Belle sees the shape of it in the light between the lines. Can it be undone? She asks, not as a challenge, but as a wish. He looks toward the west wing in his mind. I don't know, he says, honest. I only know that the rose falls when it wants, and that time is not a thing you can chase with a net. Belle nods. Then we won't chase. We'll live. They do. They feast on soups and pages and walks under sky. They learn each other's silences. They build a bridge made of tiny planks, a shared smile, a found word, a single touch, her hand covering his briefly, when a story turns sad and needs a companion. One afternoon, as the snow thins and the light sharpens, Belle sits by a window and holds the mirror. She has not used it since the West Wing. She has not needed to. But something, an ache, a pull, asks to be answered. "Show me my father," she says. The glass leans toward warmth. The small cottage appears. The candle is still in the window, but Maurice is not in his chair. He is on the bed under too many blankets for a room that warm. His hands shake. The fire is low. The jar is empty. On the table, her note lies folded and refolded again. Belle's breath shortens. She presses the mirror to her heart and then holds it out to the beast. "He's ill," she says. "He needs me." The beast looks. He sees not the old man in the bed. He sees the girl beside him. The way her voice changes when she says, "Father." The way her hands tremble and still try to carry. He has learned something in the snow. Love is not a room where you close the door and keep what you have. Love is a door you open, and sometimes you walk through it alone for a little while so the other person can find their way home. "You should go to him," he says. The words are a tender ache. "Go." Belle looks up, startled by the wideness of the gift. But she thinks of the rose. She thinks of the petal count she doesn't know. She thinks of the warmth of the library and the way snowflakes look on his sleeve. "Take the mirror," he says, pressing it into her hands. "So you can look back and see me. See that I'm here." Her eyes fill. "I will come back if I can," she says. "Because promises matter and truth matters more." "I know," he says. He tries to smile. It is not neat. It is real. In the great hall, the household gathers as if someone has told them a story that needs many listeners. Mrs. Potts hugs Belle by bumping the tray against her hip. Lumière bows and makes a small flame heart in the air without meaning to. Cogsworth clears his throat and miscounts the hinges again. Chip says, "Be brave," and then blushes because she already is. Belle wraps her cloak. The beast walks with her to the door. Their footsteps echo together. "Thank you," she says. "For everything that can fit in, thank you, and the many things that can't." "Go," he says again softer. The door opens. Cold noses in. Belle steps out into it. Philippe stands ready as if he has been waiting since the day she arrived. She mounts. She looks back. The beast lifts a hand. Not a wave. Something more like a blessing. Belle rides. Snow gives way to hard ground. Hard ground becomes the old road. The trees relax. The first roofs of town appear, set like cards around the square. Belle does not slow. Home has never felt so far and so near at the same time. Chapter 10. A night like starlight. The door of the cottage opens before she knocks. Her father sits up in bed, surprised by joy, and then is too busy crying to be surprised. Belle drops her cloak on the chair and moves like a nurse who has been practicing in her mind for days. Fire stirred, kettle filled, blankets shaken and set. Soup made from what there is. Maurice tries to speak in sentences. Belle teaches him to speak in sips. When he can sit without shaking, she tells him pieces of the castle. The library like a small sea of calm. Mrs. Potts' stories. A clock with a nervous heart. A candlestick who believes every room can be warmed if you stand in it long enough and smile. She does not tell him about the rose. She does not tell him about the West Wing. She tells him about snowfall that sounds like a held breath and a voice that is learning how to be gentle again. "You sound happy?" Maurice says, half worried, half relieved. "I sound more myself," Belle answers and kisses his forehead. Days pass like lanterns along a path. Maurice grows stronger. The kettle sings more often. The beard he forgot to trim, and the worst of it, gets a careful shave. Neighbors bring broth and bread and a cake that collapses in the middle and is somehow perfect. Belle keeps the mirror under her pillow. Some nights she cannot help it. She looks in. The castle appears. Candles burn like quiet stars. In the garden, large footprints walk and then stop and then walk and then stop, as if someone went outside to think and came back in with the snow on his mind. One evening, the mirror shows the ballroom lit as if the sky has fallen to the floor. The beast stands there in a clean coat that fits. Someone has altered it with kind hands. He looks at the door as if doors have feelings. He looks at the ceiling as if stars could answer questions. He takes one breath, then another. Belle's heart goes warm and wide. If she were there, she would take his hand. He is not alone. The household gathers near the walls, pretending not to watch. Lumière nods at a musician who is also a music box. Cogsworth stays by the door in case anyone needs protocol. Mrs. Potts glows. The beast steps to the center. Belle whispers, though no one can hear her. "You're doing well." The mirror keeps still, but somehow carries it. At Maurice's window, snow starts again, soft as forgiveness. Belle looks from the mirror to her father to the mirror again. She thinks of the dance she is not dancing. She thinks of the promise she did not make, but feels anyway. Return, if I can, before the last petal falls. A knock shivers the door. Two men in coats, too fine for kindness, stand with a third man whose smile is eager and thin. "Good evening," says the thinnest smile. "We hear there is illness here. We are from the asylum. We can help." Maurice stiffens. Belle moves to stand between him and the door. "We do not need your help," she says. "Thank you." The man glances past her at the room, at the mirror on the table, at the warmth. He has not come to help. He has come to gather. People like firewood. He tilts his head. Others say different. They say an old man speaks of castles with talking clocks and dancing candlesticks. That he lost his girl to a beast, and that a rose counts time. They say, he smiles wider, they say he is mad. Belle feels anger rise, not hot, but cold and clear. "It is a true story," she says, level as a lake. "And even if it weren't, we would not put a man in chains for telling it." "Some would," says a voice from the street. Gaston. He steps into the doorway, coat perfect, hair perfect. The surface of a person drawn carefully. He looks at Belle, not unkind, but determined to turn the world until it faces him. "I tried to give you a life," he says. "You chose a dream. Dreams can be softened by reality." Belle stares at him for a long moment. "Reality," she says, "is a father who needed soup and a fire and a blanket and a hand to hold. Reality is a castle where a man tries every day to be better. Reality is not a crowd. Reality is a kindness. You are confusing noise with truth." Gaston's smile closes like a door. "Show them," he says to the room. "Show them your beast." Belle lifts the mirror because truth should not be afraid. "Show me the master of the castle," she says, and the glass obeys. The ballroom appears, empty now, candles lower, hope still burning. The beast stands at a window, looking out at snow. He looks lonely in a way that is not theatrical. It is small and real. The room gasps. Not because he is ugly, because he is alive and they can feel it. Gaston sees the turn and steps to catch it. "A monster!" he cries, eager for the old music of a mob. "He will come for you. He will come for your children." Belle does not raise her voice. "He will not," she says. "He will not leave his house. He is kind." Oh, Gaston lifts his arms as if inviting the ceiling to join him. "Kind?" Look at him! Look at those claws, those teeth! He turns to the men from the asylum. Take the old man. Hold the girl if you must. We will keep the town safe. The word safe gets misused so often. Tonight it means, do as I say. The men reach for Maurice. Belle steps in front of him. The mirror tips and catches the light and sends a thin stitch of brightness across the wall and out the window to the snow, as if to tell the world where the story has gone. Neighbors gather. Torches catch. People who love Belle hesitate. People who want to be on the winning side move toward Gaston. Stop, Belle says, and the room stills because she rarely uses a loud voice. Listen. He is not our enemy. Fear is. Pride is. Lies are. The beast is a person. A child in the doorway says very softly, he looks sad. Gaston hears the ground shift and doubles his force. Do you want a sad monster to walk near your doors? He points toward the forest. To the castle. We finish this before it begins. And because fear is contagious and torches are warm on cold hands, the line forms. They march. The square that knows small songs is filled with a noise it has not heard in a long time. A crowd that wants a villain. Belle watches them go and gathers herself on one line. Love does not let a friend stand alone. She kisses Maurice's hair. Lock the door, she says. Light both candles. If I do not come back, read the note in the drawer. It tells you who to ask for help. But I will come back. He grips her hand. Be safe, he whispers. I will be brave, she answers. And that is a kind of safety, too. She throws on her cloak, grabs the mirror, and runs for Philippe. The road to the forest feels shorter the second time because urgency eats distance. Belle leans low. Philippe runs as if a promise has been braided into his mane. Ahead, torches. Behind, a small light in a cottage window that has always been her star. She rides between them, a line of hope. Chapter 11. Gaston's crowd and the House of Windows. The castle sees them first. The line of lights, the shovel of voices, the sound of boots trying to make the earth obey. It tightens its stones the way a person tightens their coat. Inside, Lumière peeks from a curtain and swallows a flame. Company, he says, and the word does not mean what it usually means. Cogsworth straightens his face and his fears and his posture. Right, he squeaks. Defensive positions. Controlled welcoming. Manners with elbows. Mrs. Potts rolls into the kitchen. Chip, stay close. Her voice is all mother and a little steel. We will be clever, not cruel. The doors shudder under the first blows. Open up. Gaston's voice climbs the wood and scratches at the carvings. Come out and face us. The beast stands at the foot of the stairs, hands hanging, eyes on the door. He has always been big. Tonight he is heavy in a different way, with the knowledge that you cannot teach a heart that won't listen. Master, Lumière says, soft and urgent. Go. Save yourself. Go to the high room. We will delay them. The beast looks up the stairs toward the west wing, toward the rows that will not argue or plead. He looks toward the library, which still smells like new leather and old hope. He looks at the door and sees not Gaston, but Belle, her calm, her courage, riding this way. I will not fight them, he says, and the household understands. They do not want to fight either. They want to keep their home breathing. The doors crack. The crowd pours in like a loud river. For a moment, everything is confusion. The kind that is funny if you let it be. Drawers bite fingers. Curtains become nets. Ropes wriggle like snakes around proud legs. Feather dusters prove that feathers can be fierce. A wardrobe falls with precision and traps 3 men, then apologizes for landing on their hats. Mrs. Potts pours hot tea on cold hearts and says, "Mind your manners," and Chip trips a brute by being in the right place at the right speed. They do not injure. They hinder. It is a different kind of bravery. Gaston does not laugh. He hates being made small. He breaks free and runs for the stairs. "Master," Cogsworth calls, breathless and brave. "Up!" The beast climbs, not fast, not slow. He reaches the west wing. He stands before the rose. A petal wavers, falls, settles. He touches the glass, not to protect what's left, but to say thank you, to time for teaching, to loss for clarifying, to love for arriving in a shape he didn't know to ask for. Gaston bursts through the door with a bow in his hands and a history in his jaw. "Fight me," he cries, thrilled to be in a story where he is sure of his role. "No," the beast says, and it is the strongest word he has said in years. "I won't." Gaston looses an arrow anyway. It nicks fur. It breaks a piece of stone. He roars, not the beast, Gaston, frustrated that the world won't arrange itself around him. He leaps. The beast steps aside, and the jump becomes a stumble. They crash onto a balcony where the wind speaks, and the night looks on without choosing a side. "Look at you," Gaston spits. "All this and for what? For a girl who will never love you. For a house full of things." The beast looks at the snow. He looks at the garden where he learned to wait. He looks at the window where he learned to open a door and let a person go. "For love," he says, simple as bread. Gaston draws a knife. The steel is small and sharp and silly under stars. He slashes once, twice. The beast avoids the second by luck and the first by learning. He does not strike back. "Stop," he says. "Make me," Gaston says and smiles. "Belle." Chip's voice arrives on the wind, high and bright, and hope. "Belle is here." Gaston's eyes flicker. The beast's eyes light. He steps to the balcony edge and sees her below, cloak dark against snow, face turned up like a question God would want to answer. He moves toward the stairs. Gaston moves toward his back. The knife glitters. The beast flinches. Pain flares and fades. He holds the rail. He does not fall. "Coward," Gaston says, because kindness looks like cowardice to people who confuse loud with strong. The beast looks at him. "I am done with being the person you want me to be," he says. "Go home." Gaston raises the knife again. "Gaston," Belle calls from below, and her voice is not a command. It is a bell that asks the hour to be true. "Stop." He hesitates. The world holds a breath. The beast takes that small breath and turns it into a step. He leaves the balcony. He goes down. He goes toward Belle the way warmth goes toward a person who opens a door after a long, cold day. They meet at the foot of the stairs. She puts a hand on his chest, not to slow him, to say, "I am here." He smiles. It is new and so familiar. "You came back," he says. "Of course," she answers. Behind them, above them, outside them, the castle is a held note. Time is a petal falling in slow motion. The household peaks and weeps and laughs. A sound like a snap comes from high in the west wing. The last petal falls. Wind runs through the halls like a ghost who has carried a message a very long way and is finally allowed to rest. The beast shudders. He sinks. He lowers himself to the floor as if laying himself down at the end of a very long day. Belle falls with him, her hands under his head, her face near his face. She does not look away. "Listen," she says, and the word reaches past pain to the place where truth sits. "I love you." The world hears her. So does the rose. Chapter 12. The last petal, loss, love, and light. Silence after storms is different. It is not emptiness. It is a full pause made of held hands and open eyes and breaths that are counted and then released. The castle keeps that silence now. A glow begins in the west wing. Not fire, not candle. Something older. The feel of a word being spoken in its true form for the first time. Belle cradles the beast. He is pale under fur, his eyes half closed. He hears the words. He thinks he hears the words. He wants to hear them again. "I love you," Belle repeats, because important things need saying twice. "You are kind. You are brave. You let me go when you wanted to hold on. You are my friend. You are my heart's home." A wind rises from nowhere and everywhere. It rushes down the corridor and through rooms that have memorized old drafts and new laughter. It lifts curtains. It plucks dust from corners. It circles the rows and gathers the last fallen petal and the first promise in one whirl. The light finds the beast and moves through him. It does not erase. It reveals. Fur smooths to skin. Claws soften to hands. Horns become a brow that was always there. The shape changes the way a story changes when you tell the truth about it. The ugly parts are still part of it. But you see how they led to this. The face that was waiting, the eyes that were always the same. Belle watches. Tears fall and feel like rain after a drought. He opens his eyes. They are his. They have always been his. She would know them anywhere. "Belle," he says. And the voice is his voice already, low, careful, warm. She laughs and cries at once. "You," she answers, because there is no other name that fits. He sits up. Every joint marvels. He stands. Every step remembers. He holds his hands out, fingers spread, as if meeting them for the first time. Belle places her hands in his without ceremony. The fit is simple as bread. Around them the household hums and then erupts. Lumière is a man again, elegant and delighted, flame eyes now bright with tears. He kisses Belle's knuckles, then pretends he did not because it is better to hug. He hugs. Cogsworth. Dear, exacting. Becomes a person with a waistcoat and a look that says, "I still count things, but I count what matters." He bows and then coughs and then cries and then bows again. Mrs. Potts is herself, hands, apron, face like morning. "Chip," she calls, and a boy runs into her arms, whole and laughing and announcing how fast he can be with legs. "We'll use cups for tea again," she says, kissing his hair. "But not tonight." The staff find each other laughing in the middle of tears, touching faces to make sure this is not a trick. A cook wipes her eyes with her big spoon. A footman falls to his knees and prays in the simple way of someone who hasn't in years. Joy is the easiest chore in the world. Everyone does it at once. The castle itself changes, not with a crack, but with a long, contented sigh. Frost lets go of the edges. Vines lift and green. Stone mends its own hairline lines. Windows clear their throats and sing light. The ballroom inhales and returns to itself, polished, possible, waiting. Outside, the grounds open their eyes. Hedges soften. The fountain remembers water the way a person remembers a name they loved and lost and found again. Birds arrive all at once as if called. They probably were. Gaston stands where the hall meets the night, knife small in his hand now, pride smaller. He sees the change and refuses to be changed by it. He turns to go, steps backward, misses, stumbles, grabs at air. The castle is not cruel. It offers him a ledge. He does not take it. He falls into his own story. The night closes gently behind him. No one cheers. Belle and the prince walk to a window. The world is itself again, plus something it did not have yesterday. Grace. He looks at her with a face that shows his heart without hiding it behind teeth and mane. Thank you, he says. And he is speaking to her and to the world and to the part of himself that chose to become the friend of his own life. She smiles. We did this, she says correctly. They walk through the house so everyone can see the truth up close. Belle squeezes Mrs. Potts's hands and thanks her for every poured comfort. Lumière spins a little and laughs at his own feat. Cogsworth straightens a crooked picture because Joy likes tidy corners too. Chip compares heights with Belle and declares, You win, and then adds, For today, because he plans to eat soup and grow. Days follow that feel like waking from a long nap into a longer morning. The library is open to the town. Children run their fingers along spines and promise to treat the books like friends. The books promise to treat the children like readers. Both keep their word. Maurice arrives in his best jacket, eyes wet even before the carriage stops. Belle runs to him and time folds around them, like a blanket being shaken out in sunlight. He meets the prince and sees the boy inside the man and nods as if they have both repaired the same delicate machine. The village learns a new story, not the one Gaston sold them, but the one Belle shows them. They are not ashamed for being afraid. They are grateful for being invited to be brave. Seasons change. A spring morning finds Belle at the greenhouse table with seeds and little pots and a plan that begins small and grows. The prince kneels beside her, asking, not ordering, where to place his hands. He listens better now. He smiles more now. He apologizes quickly and forgives slowly in the way that makes forgiveness true. A summer evening finds the ballroom windows open to a garden that hums. Musicians play softly. People from the town wear their best and they're comfortable. Dancing looks like walking that forgot to worry. Belle and the prince move together, not a performance, a conversation. Her head on his chest, his hand at her back. Their steps a page turned together. An autumn afternoon finds Maurice in the workshop on the castle grounds that has more tools than any room should. He shows the prince a drawing for a new handcart. They argue tenderly about the angle of a handle. Belle sits with her notebook and writes 3 lines that she will keep forever. Kindness is work. Love is practice. Home is where we keep both. A winter night finds the castle with candles in every window and a table with bowls and bread and seats for anyone who knocks. Old friends, new friends. People who are cautious, people who are learning. The household moves among them as hosts and family. Someone tells the story of the last petal. Someone tells the story of the first page. Belle tells the small truth that makes the large truth possible. We just kept choosing each other. When the last guest leaves and the doors close and the house sighs, Belle and the prince walk the hallway where a glass bell once stood. It stands no more. In its place, the table holds a single, simple vase with whatever is in season. Field flowers in spring, herbs in summer, leaves in fall. A sprig of evergreen in winter. Time still passes. It always will. But it is no longer a countdown. It is a rhythm. They pause at a window. Snow begins again, soft, slow, forgiving as ever. Belle leans her head on his shoulder. He rests his cheek on her hair. Listen, Tushy says. He does. It is the sound of a castle breathing. It is the sound of a town settling. It is the sound of a rose that did not die but changed. It is the sound of a story that found the shape it wanted. 2 people, 2 hands, a room with light, a night like starlight, and sleep close by, patient and kind. Good night, Belle whispers. To the windows, to the world, to anyone listening. The windows answer. Good night.